Chrom has a rich history since his inclusion in Smash 4. No, not as a character, but as Robin's final Smash. Chrom is one of the weird exceptions of a character that began as a very high quality model with voice lines and everything, and only to be a part of Robin's final Smash, even a part of Robin's win screens. Here's something else interesting. Chrom was by far one of the most requested characters. Most people expected he would be in the next Smash game for how successful Awakening was. The game alone revitalized Fire Emblem in the West. In fact, he was so highly requested, Sakurai even made a Smash 4 Mii costume in order to please the fans who wanted Chrom in the game. Don't worry guys, we don't need Chrom, we got Chrom at home. Here's some interesting history not everybody might remember, especially if you weren't a part of Smash 4's insane hype train. There was a leak that was very credible for its time. It was only a text leak, but it was strangely consistent. The Gamatsu leak managed to guess multiple characters correctly, who ended up being on Smash 4's roster. And no, I'm not talking one or two characters, damn near a large portion of the roster. Guessing some really strange picks that no one was really expecting would be in Smash. Characters like Wii Fit Trainer, Villager, Shulk, Mega Man, Pac-Man, Palutena, Mii Fighters, Little Mac, Pokemon from X and Y, they all made it into Smash 4's roster. However, at a certain point there was chinks in the armor for the leak. Rosalina was revealed at one point, the leak didn't mention her, but the biggest confliction was the day Robin and Lucina was revealed during a Nintendo Direct. What does this have to do with Chrom? Well, Chrom and the Chorus Kids were two characters also on the Gamatsu leak, and they said they were going to be on the roster. And during the Robin and Lucina trailer, not only did it reveal two more characters that Gamatsu didn't guess, but it showed Chrom was basically a Final Smash character only, not a playable character. That's it, right? The leak must be fake. Well, I think this requires more nuance. More people today happen to agree with the fact that the Gamatsu leak got so many things correct. A couple wrong guesses and missing characters could mean that this was possibly really early Smash 4 information that got changed later in development. And well, there's actually proof to this. Later, people found out through interviews that none other than Masahiro Sakurai stated that Chrom was actually not only a character that was wanted for Smash 4, he was actually planned at one point in development. That's right, Chrom was actually scrapped because Sakurai thought his moveset wouldn't be original enough, and they really could only think of a couple moves to separate him from characters like Marth or Ike. So instead, they ended up going with Robin instead, who had the more potential for a unique moveset, and also they wanted a protagonist for Fire Emblem Awakening still. Near the end of Smash 4's development, the clone characters, or I guess now they would be called Echo Fighters, Dr.Mario, Dark Pit, and Lucina, were added so late in development that they were actually going to be alternate costumes instead of separate characters on the roster. Alf being the only one who didn't make the conversion to being a full character. And even the Chorus Kids had evidence of being in Smash 4, with the Rhythm Heaven series icon being left over in the game data. Many people believed that the Gamatsu leak was possibly legit and was simply just really outdated Smash 4 character information. So essentially, Chrom almost made it into Smash 4, but he finally would make his way into Smash Ultimate as a playable character. And I always thought it was kind of funny how he said Chrom would be unoriginal and he wouldn't do it, and then they just put him in Smash Ultimate as a Roy clone. A little bit of cloneception there. Shoutouts to the actual Chrom fans. I feel like if he wasn't in such high demand, Sakurai wouldn't have added him to Smash Ultimate. The largest difference between the two characters is obviously Roy has cool fire effects, so he's automatically better. Nah, I'm kidding. But Chrom does have a different up special that's more similar to Ike's. Again, kind of funny how Sakurai would say Chrom would be unoriginal. Chrom's sword hitboxes are more balanced, similar to Lucina. Because of this, there's a lot of small differences in their combo flows and edge guarding. How good was he? Well, funnily enough, when players first got their hands on Smash Ultimate's demos, Chrom was a character that people were saying was actually the best in the game. Many demo tier lists were floating around putting Roy and Chrom as some of the best characters in the game. It was actually kind of funny how wrong they were about certain things, especially with Chrom. Later on, people began to discover Chrom's limited recovery, especially compared to Roy's. However, despite people missing the mark, Chrom is still a pretty decent character who has sprinkled buffs alongside Roy, who was also buffed. But some people view Chrom rather pessimistically due to his still very exploitable recovery to this day. It's more common today people are going to choose Roy or Lucina instead of Chrom, who are similar characters in that archetype. The thing that I think is important about Chrom, and I'll give him this, he truly feels like what what the Roy concept was meant to be in Melee. Roy was meant to be more aggressive and hot-blooded character, and while that obviously didn't happen in Melee where Roy was more hot garbage instead of hot fire, I know that's a stupid joke and I'm proud of it. Chrom actually feels like a version of what Roy was trying to be in Melee. He's got the same moveset as Roy, but he feels just as aggressive, and he's still a promising character, no doubt. I do think he deserves his spot, but can be outclassed by Ultimate's competitive amount of sword fighters that are in that roster.